The final step that I want to show you is the work in the panel. Now, we are never going to put 3 circuits in the panel. We're only ever going to feed one panel or one circuit in the lab. But I just want to put 3 circuits in here so you can see what it is I'm talking about when I say that we want to layer the wires and the reason why it becomes important. Okay, so just like when we were hooking up the device where the bond wire is our safety net, so we hook it up first, that's what we want to hook up in here first as well. The other advantage to doing that is that we don't want these bare copper wires to potentially come in contact with any live services here in the panel. And so we're going to tuck them all back in the back. So the way we accomplish that, the other thing that I hate is when wires get crossed. Okay, if wires are crossed, there's nothing you can do with them unless you take them off the breakers and their lugs and whatever and uncross them. So it's really important when you build the layers in your panel that you start right from the point where the wires enter the panel. So here's what I'm going to do. And if I was doing a panel change, I would bring all of the wires in here and there would be this huge mess. And we would just deal with it one wire at a time. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to get every insulated wire folded back out of the panel in such a way that the bond wire comes straight in. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I don't have any crosses, any twisted wires. These are going to get pulled out and these are getting pulled in. And I'm going to do that with all 3 of the wires that I have here that I'm working on. Okay, and now I can get these wires onto this ground lug. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up, and I don't need to leave a big loop on this, but by aiming to the far end, that gives me lots of extra. Okay, if I had a problem later and I had to move it, I've got all this extra wire. I could connect it down at the bottom or someplace else that reaches. Okay, there are holes here in the tub as well. I can add more bars and I can connect down here. So I don't need to leave big giant loops with the bond wires. I'm just going to take this up to the top, snip off my extra length, give that a fold, and I should be able to coax it in underneath that first lug right there. Okay, so there it is, and I can just tighten it down. Now I just need to do that with the next one. I'll bring it up. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push it back into the back corner of the box. And I'm gonna get it into the corner like that. And then I'm gonna bring it up to that next available screw. Cut off all of that extra length and coax that in. Gonna put a little extra bend on it and get that up behind that lug right there. This is where I might find use for my needle nose pliers, but I think I can get that. Yep, that's in there. Tighten that down. And then grab the next one and the same thing. See how it's entering the box here further forward? So first thing I'm going to do is take it straight back to the back of the box and then take it up through that same path, get it to bend so that it's aiming for the next available screw, snip off the extra, and one more time coax that into the bar there and tighten it down. So there they are. If I'm coming in to add a circuit to a panel that's already fairly full, maybe I'm coming in the bottom and all of these wires are already in place, I'm actually going to put the effort into getting that bond wire up in behind all of those other wires and up into here. Rather than leaving it hanging across the top or the front, I'm going to put the effort into getting it back in behind. Okay, we want the panel to be layered. It's going to make everybody's life easier later on. Okay, so there's all the bond wires in the back. Next is going to be all the white wires. So let's pull them forward, figure out what we have to work with, leaving all of our black wires still folded out of the way. Okay, I'm going to turn. I'm probably going to let this one drift a little bit to the front and take it up. And then I'm going to give this a bend. And let's see, let's put it about there. We're going to aim for that spot right there. So I'm going to snip this off. Get my strippers. Strip a chunk of that. And now we can tuck it right in about there somewhere. Should be fine. So see how I've got this nice little loop, and it's not a massive loop, okay? But it is a little bit extra wire for whatever difficulties I might run into later. Who knows what I might have to do or adjust, okay? Or even if it's 20 or 30 years from now when they do a panel change, it's just nice to have that little bit of extra wire. I'm gonna bring the next one. Now this is an interesting path. I'm considering maybe coming up this side of those black wires. Maybe that's where I want to go. Fold those back, and now this loop is going to be slightly lower than the last loop because in the end I'm aiming for the next screw down there on the terminal. Snip that off, grab my strippers, tuck this in here. Find a good spot for it. Where does it want to go? That's not it. We got to come to this next one. There. Slide that in there. Tighten it on there. And one more time. And so because this wire is out forward in the panel, it makes sense to now be on this side of those black wires. And one more time. This loop is going to be a little bit lower than the other loops, and it's going to turn and aim for a terminal that is lower on the block. Cut off the excess wire, strip it, and land it. So there's what the white wires look like. They're all tucked in there very nicely. Now the black wire, we're going to do a similar sort of thing. Okay. Now we've got this one. So we're going to go up, and we're going to make a loop. We're going to come back down, and we're going to go aim straight into the breaker right there. Okay. So you see what I mean? It's not a huge, excessive loop. It's not massive. All right, but it is there. And if we decide we need to move this breaker, move this circuit to a different spot on the panel, we have the hope of doing that, okay? And also if there's a burn off, okay, so this connection is potentially where we're gonna get a burn off. And I can cut 2 or 3 or 4 inches off of this wire and I can still reach to reconnect it, okay? So if I get a service call, the circuit's not working, and I come and I look in the panel and I see a burn off, that's a 5-minute fix. I just cut the damaged wire off, restrip it, re-land it under the breaker, and I'm driving down the road, I'm done. Okay? So there's one. Next one's gonna come up, and it's gonna fold slightly lower. So see how that loop is lower in the panel, because then it's going to turn and go into the next breaker down right there. I'm going to just use my strippers to cut it, maybe a little more efficient, one less reach into my back pocket for a different tool. And notice the breakers have plates where the terminal is to grab on the copper, so there's no need to twist the copper onto this like we did on the devices, because there's a plate there that's designed to grab it, much like the contour in the back of the box for the grounds. Oh, I should tell you the other thing I just did. Anybody notice that? After I made the connection, I gave that wire a tug. See, I knew that wasn't quite right. I gave it a tug to find out if it was going to stay. Because if it's not, I want to know right now. I don't want to get a call a week from now or a month from now or a year from now saying there's a problem. If there's a problem, I want to know right now. So after I've made the connection, I give the wire a tug to confirm that it's there and there to stay. One last time. Up. Give it a bend there, give it a bend there, and it's going to land right there. cut it off, strip the wire, land the wire, and make the connection. So here we go. We now have 3 circuits connected in our panel. Okay, we've got the extra wire in case of burn-offs or in case of any changes we need to make down the road. The other advantage, I talked about coming in after the fact many years later, maybe in adding a new circuit and having to get in underneath. Look at this. I can grab these wires and I can just roll them forward and I have access to the panel behind it. And then when I'm done doing whatever I do, I just roll them back into place. Okay, so instead of just having wires everywhere in a complete mess that's unmanageable, this is not only very pretty, but it's very, very functional. Okay, I think that's all I have to say for now, guys. Until the next video.